Welcome back everybody for another devlog. This week we're going to take a look at the trading card game I built in my game. I'm pretty excited about this. This is one of my favorite things in the game. I went through and painted a lot of mock Pokemon cards for this. I'm pretty happy with where it's at, so let's take a look at it in the game. In the last video we looked at the incremental mechanic I had put in my game. And I mentioned that the currency you obtained there was going to feed into the upgrade system. That upgrade system is based off of trading cards that I've implemented in the game. So this was my first rough implementation of this, where I have this card machine, you get a package of cards, and I have these template cards that go into a binder. This video was done in 2019, and this was when I first came up with this idea. This was once again me trying to inject as much of my own personality into the game as possible, and at the time I was watching a lot of Pokemon card unboxing videos. I just thought it was so fun seeing these packs opened up and not knowing what cards you were going to see and the cool holographic cards that would come out, and so I thought this would be a really cool system in the game. Especially, you could almost have all of the fun of random loot boxes without having to pay for real money, so kind of the best possible combination of both worlds. So here I've switched over to using some placeholder Pokemon cards. And you can see I passed the game Turing over the sensor there on the card machine, and that lets you buy a pack using that currency. And the way this mechanic is going to work is if you collect a set of cards, so if you're into Pokemon cards, if you collect like the 3 evolutions of like Charmander, that'll count as a set, and if you complete that set, then you'll get an upgrade that'll make you stronger or change the game in some way. Here you can see the Weedle set has been complete, I've highlighted them. This seemed like a really good idea, and I was really excited for it, and then I realized I had to start making my own Pokemon cards. So I ended up doing watercolor illustrations for all of the cards. A lot of these you'll kind of see follow kind of the Pokemon template, so there's like some starters with 3 evolutions, there's kind of like the same bird Pokemon you'd get, there's some legendary Pokemon, and then in the back there's trainers and there's items and locations. This ended up being a ton of work making all of these cards, but I really wanted to flesh this out, and I just thought it would be so much fun just to have all of these present in the game. And as you'll see soon, I kind of have a UI, so you'll be able to read descriptions on each of the cards and kind of flesh out almost as if this whole trading card system exists in perpetuity. As I go through the cards here, I'll talk a little bit more about the idea I have for the upgrades. So I mentioned that as you complete sets, you'll get new mechanics and more powerful abilities. I think this is really exciting in that presumably 2 different people could play the game, and as much as the game is going to be quite linear, it's going to be the same levels, this system will introduce some randomness. So maybe somebody completes a set that gives them a certain ability or makes a certain weapon stronger or makes them faster, and that impacts their gameplay. Of course, on the other side of that randomness, I think is going to be a challenge in terms of the game design. You want people to always have a good time, so even though it's random, no one is getting the short end of the stick. And the thing that I think is going to be challenging is in the game there's going to be 4 weapons, and you'll unlock them as you play through the game. So unlocking sets that would give you upgrades for weapons you don't have yet, it doesn't really do much for you, right? So I may go about kind of unlocking sets of cards as you play through the game. So maybe at the beginning you can only fill out 1 binder sheet worth of cards, and then after you unlock the next weapon you can get the next binder sheet, and those correspond to that. I haven't really decided yet. And the other thing that's kind of challenging with any kind of randomness like this is making sure that by the end of the game everybody has all of the cards unlocked, because that's kind of the fun. You want to make it so by the time you finish the game you've gotten all the cards, right? And so when you have probability involved, it can be a bit tricky, where if you have super rare cards, how do you make it so you know by the end of the game people have gotten them all? I've got some ideas around this, but I still need to experiment. I'm thinking maybe in the Super Smash Bros. Games, you used to be able to spend currency to get a random little statue, and at a certain point you could start putting in lots of currency at once, so spending more currency than you would for just 1 statue, and that would give you a better chance of getting a new one. So I might implement something like that, where you can bias the odds of unlocking a new card. And the other facet to all of this is all of these cards, I've set it up so there's a regular version, then there's a reverse version, which means it's a little bit hollow, it's a little bit more rare, it has some shine to it, and then there's a full holographic version, just like Pokemon cards, which is the most rare. And so I think that with these upgrades, I'm going to set it up so as you unlock more holographics in your set, that'll give you better and better abilities, and it'll modify them. Anyway, enough talking for me. Let's let the music play as we look at these. After I finished making all of these cards, I went through and I scanned all of them, which also took quite a bit of time. I scanned them to a super high resolution image. I don't think I'll ever need that high resolution. But then I went through and I cropped them and put them on my UV maps for the cards. And then I actually went through and I made some holographic maps, which you can see here, which is when the game goes to show them as they're shining in the light, it'll use these maps so that each card has a little bit of a different shine to it. Most of this work I had already done. This video is where I was at the start of the week. So most of those cards were already in, things were functioning, but there was some changes I still wanted to make. I had a rendering issue with the cards. You're gonna see where the edges kind of glow here. My pipeline was adding some glow effects to the cards, so I had to remove that. I had gone through and I had added in this UI. This was meant to be, there used to be kind of Pokemon dictionary books that you would buy at the Scholastic Book Fair that had this type of look to them, so I added that. I still have lorem ipsums here, so I need to go through and add descriptions for every card. I need to update the card UI here where it moves to the center of the screen, and I don't really like that you can rotate the card 360 degrees, which makes it a little bit silly. The final change I wanted to add as well was right now I'm just drawing the cost for a pack of cards on the UI, but I thought it would be neat if the machine itself would show the price. So starting with that last item, I decided I was going to make, in engineering they're called 7-segment displays. Just shows you numbers which would light up in the real world, so I thought that I would make a series of those that I could add to the card machine that would show what the current price is for a pack of cards, because it'll go up over time. So here I made all of the 7 segments, and then I laid them out in a single image. You're going to see I set them up for all the digits 0 through 9. I chose to make this as what's called a sprite sheet animation. So I have one image that's going to have all of the numbers in it, and then in the game, it's going to treat this as if it's an animation. Obviously, none of this is really animated, but it'll use that to determine which section of this image to draw on screen. I just thought that would be a little bit more efficient rather than having 10 images and you switch out which is being used for each mesh. So I actually made a tool, this was many years ago, this was back when I had that giraffe game, which would take an image in, then export a Lua file that would show where all of the frames of the animation are, and then it could be used to make the animations themselves. My tool kind of breaks here, and I end up just writing the Lua code myself. But basically, this is just saying there's 10 animations here, and they're at these 10 spots in the image. I have to set this up with my Lua file, so in my game engine, I can just adjust which image is being used by saying play animation 9, and it'll show a digit on screen. Once that was in place, I then went to adding this to my card machine model. Thought it might be a nice change of pace to show a little bit of the art side of things. Most of it's already been done, so I haven't been able to show a lot of it, but a little bit of the Blender work. So I added 6 digits here, 2 for cents, and then 4 for, I guess, thousands. I am by no means a Blender wizard. I think the term I'd be used to describe me would be a point puller. Having a background doing CAD before I did Blender, I like making real-world objects, but I'm really terrible when it comes to sculpting. Here I'm adding the housing around those digits. And I added in a little piece here to delineate the decimal point. I do a pretty ugly unwrap here. I'm not putting a material on this, so this is by no means what you should be doing. Here is the before of what it looked like. And here we have the after with that housing in. Then I had to go through some work to wire up the digits. And you can see I just set the cost to that number to test it out. And so you can see in the top right corner, that's what the UI was. And now I've switched over to having it on the machine, which is kind of cool. Behind the scenes, I went through and I fixed that card rendering bug. I did some updates with the UI. I prevented you from being able to rotate cards 360 degrees. And so this is kind of where the update is at. I've shifted the cards off to the side and the UI is now drawing on top. This is what the holographic will look like. I open up a couple packs in this video so you can see what different cards with the different holographics look like. Then you can select a card. I've limited it now so you can't spin the card fully 360. I kind of like that. I still need to do some work to this. I need to communicate which cards will be a set and what you'll get from that set in the UI. I'm a little bit intimidated by that, to be honest. I think it's going to be challenging to highlight this group of cards goes together, and then these are going to be, this will be the ability you unlock when you complete that, and how much that'll be modified by holographic cards. In general, I've just found I've had a tough time with the UI. It's part of the reason why I added the card cost to the machine itself, because I find I'm a lot more comfortable making 3D models than setting up UI. You saw it there in the binder. I have the first 3 cards now completed, which would be a set. And so now I need to add in a UI that'll highlight them and show that these 3 have been grabbed, and now whatever it is your gun does 20% more damage or whatever it's going to be, communicate that. I'm thinking maybe on the top or the bottom I'll add in some UI. This holographic, you can see around the edges of the pebmost, you can see the highlight with the holographic. Yeah, I guess I forgot to explain. My cards I've named Redeemart cards, because the store is the Redeemart, and then like with Pokemon and Digimon, there's always a Mon at the end, so I thought I would make mine a Most instead. And so all of the cards end with Most in their names, like in Digimon. That's what I got done on the card game this week. Some good polish, but obviously still some work to be done. All right, those are the trading cards in the game. That polish is looking pretty good. I'm happy with where it's at. Obviously still some more UI work to do, still some progress to be made, but that's another thing done in the game. Next week, tune in, we're going to take a look at the combat. I'm going to start working on the second enemy. If I have enough time, I'll add in the third as well, but it should be good. I'll talk to you later. Bye.